Welcome to Equity Builds Expertise, the podcast. Because whether you teach it or build it, expertise grows where equity leads. I'm Shana Pyatt-Buckner, STEM educator, consultant, author, and voice behind the Equity Builds Expertise framework. And after years of helping teachers, school leaders, engineers, and technical teams grow their people, I've learned something pretty simple. And that's that classrooms and companies face some of the same challenges. And it's the same solutions that can actually change everything. So here, we're going to talk about what really builds expertise. We're going to talk about belonging, access, clarity, agency, and communication, and the everyday decisions that shape how people learn and collaborate. So if you're committed to growing people, whether we're talking about students and staff, teachers or engineers, this is the podcast for you. So go grab a chair, pull up and grab your notebook and help me as we engage in those conversations that ensure that we are bridging STEM education and STEM industry and really focusing on what is going to build expertise that lasts. This is Equity Builds Expertise, the podcast. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome to the Equity Builds Expertise podcast. I'm really glad that you're here. And before we begin, I just wanted to pause for a moment and say thank you. Launching something like this is super personal and always carries this mix of excitement and uncertainty. So it really means a lot to have you here just at the very start of everything. This first episode is simply a starting point, and it's not meant to cover everything. It's just an introduction. It's a way for you to hear a bit about who I am, the thinking behind my work, and why this conversation matters to me. And then as we move through the season, you're going to hear from people who have built expertise in real spaces like classrooms, companies, teams, and industries. You'll hear from people who have navigated challenges. They've questioned systems. They've found ways to grow through it. And even more importantly, you're going to hear from people who are simply willing to share those experiences honestly. This isn't about perfect answers. It's about real conversations that help us think differently about people learning and how people learn, grow, and lead. So my hope is that these conversations feel real and useful, and more importantly, that they feel human, right? I hope that you hear something that makes you pause, reflect, or try something differently. So wherever you're listening from, if you're on a walk, if you're in your car, if you're between meetings, I just want to say thank you again, and thank you for being here. So let's begin. For decades, we've been told that STEM is for the fittest, that it's a survival game where some people just magically have math skills and others simply don't. We built entire systems around tracking, weeding people out, and acting like only a select few are cut out for the hardest work. But what if the problem isn't the people? What if the problem is exactly how we designed the system? Welcome to Equity Builds Expertise, the podcast, because whether you teach it or build it, expertise grows where equity leads. I'm your host, Shana Pyatt-Buckner, and I am so incredibly thrilled that you are here. So, I've been in education for over 30 years, and ironically, I didn't start out in STEM education. I actually spent my first 4 years as a high school English teacher in Westchester County, New York. But it was during those years, taking my students on trips, working with them on reading and internalizing information, that I realized how deeply connected literacy, communication, and science truly are. Eventually, I transitioned to STEM, teaching 11th and 12th grade environmental science, and I also spent some time as a high school principal. And for the past decade or more, actually, I've spent time leading a diversity, equity, and inclusion team. But the biggest catalyst for my work that actually happened in 2008 was when I became a mom to twins. Watching my own children navigate STEM tracking systems was eye-opening. Seeing firsthand how arbitrary rules and implicit biases can gatekeep such brilliant minds is what fueled me. It fueled this fire in me. And I realized that we, we didn't just need better lessons. We needed real systemic change. So here's the core of the thesis of this podcast. It's that classrooms and companies face the exact same problems, right? Whether you're a ninth grade biology teacher trying to reach a struggling student or an engineering manager trying to build a cohesive tech team, the barriers to building expertise are identical. So we get caught and get so caught up in the content that we forget about the humans trying to process it. We need to redefine our terms, specifically equity versus equality. We need to actually remind ourselves that we need both, because equality is providing students or employees with exact same resources and standards of rigor. But now equity is providing the targeted individual support necessary to meet those high standards. Equity is not lowering the bar. It is removing the barriers to reach the bar. I want to say that again. So when we talk and when I talk about equity, equity is not about lowering the bar for people or for students. It is removing the barriers to reach the bar. So, about 2 years ago, I had the privilege of being at the Lincoln Center where the incredible Viola Davis was being honored. And she said something that really stuck to my ribs ever since. And I've used this quote in talks and speeches that I've delivered. But she basically said that your purpose is not what you do. It's what happens to people when you do what you do. That is what this work is all about. It's about the impact over the intent. It's not enough for us to intend to run an inclusive classroom or an equitable tech team. What is actually happening to the people in your care? So, to help navigate this, I developed the Equity Builds Expertise framework, and it's built on three main pillars that we're going to explore deeply on this show at different points, different components of it. But the first component of this Equity Builds Expertise framework, which includes how we access the information, but then what do we do once the people are here, right? So the first part is all about belonging. Do the people in your room feel seen? Do they feel safe? Do they feel valued? We have to create a culture of error, a space where it's safe to fail, safe to take risks, and also safe to be wrong without destroying your grade or your career. The second is access. We have to dismantle the gatekeeping by explicitly teaching these transferable skills that will provide everyone with access, because we know expertise isn't just knowing the content, it's knowing how to acquire it as well. In future episodes, we're actually going to dive deep into my top 3 transferable skills like note taking, vocabulary acquisition, and data analysis. But for now, we need to keep in mind what are those transferable skills that we need to ensure that everyone is able to master so that they can build their own expertise. And then the third pillar that is part of this Equity Builds Expertise framework that's critical is agency. This is about empowering students and employees to take total ownership of their learning and to elevate their own voices. Listen, building expertise is not about memorizing formulas or staring at a whiteboard or chalkboard back in my day, right? It's a complete mind shift in how we lead, how we teach, how we interact with each other. So here's what you can expect from this podcast. And I want you to know, I'm going to mix it up. We're going to mix it up. Some weeks it will just be you and me, right? Just like we are right now. I'll drop in for a quick solo coaching session, pulling straight from my book and from my decades in the classroom, just to give you some actionable tools that you can use immediately tomorrow. Other weeks, I'm bringing in some heavy hitters where we are going to feature some of the powerhouse tech leaders, education leaders, interviews with veteran educators, ed tech founders, and corporate engineers who are just doing this work in the trenches, right? We're going to talk about earning your AI driver's license. We're going to talk about what it means to navigate weaponized intelligence and in corporate tech. And yes, we're absolutely going to rethink grading entirely. So let's bring it back home. If you are committed to growing people, whether they're sitting at a desk in your classroom or sitting in a boardroom, you are in the exact right place. And before I let you go, I want to leave you with a little bit of homework. I want you to look at your classroom, look at your syllabus or your team metrics this week, and ask yourself one hard question. Am I rewarding true expertise, or am I just rewarding compliance? Think about that. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 1. Please hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening and leave a review and share this episode with one colleague who needs to hear it today. And until next time, keep building. Great. Thank you for listening. So before we close, I just want to leave you with this. This first episode really wasn't meant to give you all the answers, right? It was meant to shift the way you see. Because once you start to recognize how expertise is actually built, you cannot unsee the moments where it's being blocked. You start to notice it. You're going to start to notice it in who speaks up and who stays quiet, in who gets access and who gets overlooked. In the systems that we've inherited, you'll start to see it. And we're talking about the ones that we're still choosing to keep also. So here's what I want you to sit with this week. I want you to look at your classroom, look at your team, and ask yourself honestly, am I building expertise here? Or am I rewarding compliance? And if the answer feels a little uncomfortable, I don't want you thinking that it's failure. It's not failure. That's awareness. And awareness is where change begins. So in the next episode, we're stepping into one of the biggest shifts happening right now. I'm joined by Michael Taubman and Scott Kern as we talk about what it really means to build competence in an AI-driven world. And not just how to use AI, but how to think with it. They're going to share their AI driver's license framework and what it looks like to build real skill and responsibility with these tools for both students and for educators. That episode is going to drop on April 24th. So if this conversation stayed with you, I want you to share it with someone who's doing this work alongside you. And make sure that you're following the podcast so that you don't miss what's coming out next. Because whether you teach it or build it, expertise grows where equity leads. I'll see you in the next episode. And thanks again for watching and for listening.